What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another weekend edition of Bet and Breakfast. I am Donald Smook. Got my boy Reed Wallach with me. Over the next hour, we're gonna hit everything across the weekend. We're gonna look back at the NBA playoffs, look forward at the NBA playoffs. We got a whole bunch of NFL draft talk, some best bets from everywhere in the sports world. Reed, what's going on, man?
I'm doing all right, but let's not bury the lead here because we went on daily bet slip yesterday, 5 o'clock, which everyone should be tuning into because we swept the board 6-0.
Clean sweep.
We gave our guy Peter jumped on the stream. He gave out a prop basically, and we we agreed. We rode with that. So clean sweep there. So I'm feeling good right now. And now I feel like we'll get to best bets, but I'm feeling pretty good and happy we could dive into some NFL draft talk because we kind of were talking about this is like funny, like we had like Friday's show, we talked about a few things, and now we're just coming back basically the next morning. We could just recap what we talked about last night.
Yeah, it's been a wild first 2 days of the NFL draft. You've had a lot of movement, and so I think when everybody's saying like this is the craziest draft, it's weird. I think it's not necessarily crazy because of what's going on, but because everybody kind of had like their predictions for it, and once you get after like the top three, nobody's been right about anything, and everything's just gone haywire. So I want to start though, right? On that same subject, what has surprised you most about the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft?
Yeah, I kind of hinted at it yesterday, but it seems like teams are just getting smarter, right? Like it feels like almost like not that teams are directly reading like angry NFL Twitter about like bad decisions and the analytics and all that, but like it feels like teams are starting to wise up and sticking to their guns, going with the best player on their board. Like we saw no running backs in the first round. I feel like we've kind of realized that that's a wasted draft pick. I know there were like rumors of Brees Hall. Like teams are putting more premiums on the positions where you actually build winning football teams, offensive line, cornerbacks. We saw that. And then, quarterbacks falling into the third round, no second round picks. If these teams don't have, round one, round two grades on these guys, they're willing to let them fall. I think that whether they're right or wrong, I think it shows that teams are at least making more sound decisions. They're not forcing the issue, which I feel like we've seen in the past.
Yeah, and listen, I don't want to give them credit, like too much credit for having common sense. And so I'm not going to say that it's like smart, but I will say like it's about time that you guys just stand up for yourselves.
Yeah.
Like these are grown men running billion-dollar industries and letting Twitter and and NFL draft nerds dictate their picks. Like if you don't think a guy is good, don't take him. And so like I don't know. I'm really shocked. And I told you this yesterday that I thought Malik Willis was gonna go off the board in the second round. I was shocked that he didn't go. I first off that he fell past the first 10 picks, that Minnesota passed on him, that Seattle had 2 picks
Yeah.
and him. I thought
That's when you
Houston.
knew it was going to be a while.
Yeah,
When Seattle passed him at 44, you're like, he might be here for a little bit.
yeah, because it's like they have Drew Lock as their quarterback. Like there's nothing that they have right now that's saying, "Oh, we need a win now." Maybe DK Metcalf, but at that point, like the receiver's just there to sell tickets. So you're not actually building a winning football team in that division if you don't have a quarterback, and Drew Lock's not going to be that guy. So like, why are you not taking a quarterback when you have back-to-back picks to start the second round? So that for me was very, very shocking because at the start of all of this, Willis was at least minus 200. I know he had several lines elsewhere, but
Yeah.
minus 200 at least to be the first quarterback off the taken. And he, minus 200 to be the first quarterback taken off the board. He ended up being the third, right? He goes after Ritter, who goes to the Falcons. So that's a huge drop for Malik Willis. I think he's in a good spot though in Tennessee behind Tannehill. Would you agree?
Yeah. I think that, again, I like his over under was like 10.5 or something. I just think quarterbacks are so polarizing that like we're going to forget like by next year that he was a third. Like it's a kind of irrelevant. Like it's like the story now, but like again, I feel like it's all media driven. It's all like this like hyped up thing. But again, I read reports that some teams didn't even have a first round grade on him. So to see him fall, I wasn't as surprised as other people because I'm not like the biggest believer, but him going to Tennessee, Ryan Tannehill might be on his way out. This team, they trade A.J. Brown, the Titans. They might be heading into a bit of a decline. They may cut ties with Ryan Tannehill in the near future. So, like, if you're the Titans now in the third round, cap hits much smaller, much less of a commitment. Why not take a shot on Malik Willis? Like, it's all in the eye of the beholder. So I think the Titans, they took a worthwhile risk. I wouldn't even call it a risk, a worthwhile draft pick on someone like Malik Willis with tantalizing upside. But at the same time, they didn't have to burn pick 25 or whatever they ended up selecting in the first round. That's unnecessary. In the third round, it's much different. So I think it's a great landing spot for him. I think that honestly, where all the quarterbacks ended up going, it was a little bit later than expected. I think they all made out pretty good. You see Corral in Carolina, Ritter in Atlanta, Malik Willis in Tennessee. That's kind of all the teams were mocked for quarterbacks. They end up getting the guys that they were linked to, just they get them for much cheaper, and they could also build on their team elsewhere. So I think for those teams, they actually made out pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm thinking about it. Did Pittsburgh actually make a mistake then? Like, do you think that the Steelers are the one who made the mistake because they're the ones who reached on the quarterback at 20 in a class that's not necessarily like quarterback driven?
I think Pittsburgh made that pick. Pick it. I think Pittsburgh may have made that pick because they're a little bit more more cap strapped for in the salary cap, and they're planning on because Kenny Pickett, everyone the report on him was he's the most pro ready. I don't necessarily agree, but he's the most ready to play. He's 24 years old. He's ready to go now. So maybe Pittsburgh put a premium on someone like Pickett that maybe next year he's coming, maybe even this year, middle of this year, he's coming in and playing, and we're expecting him to deliver. So maybe that's why Pittsburgh reached on him. Because if you think about it, you get that fifth-year option with a first-round pick. So maybe there's more of a premium for Pittsburgh to say, we're actually expecting him to be our guy. He's not going to be a project. So we don't want to wait. We want to get that guy. And, you get that fifth-year option. You're going to have the option of keeping him under control for another year. So reach, maybe, probably. But again, like sussing through the logic, I actually kind of see what Pittsburgh, at least what I think they were trying to do.
Yeah. That makes a little bit of sense. I want to switch gears from the NFL draft to back to our clean sweep from last night.
Yep.
We hit Grizzlies money line, Timberwolves first quarter money line, John Morant under 27.5 points, D'Angelo Russell under 16.5 points, Desmond Bain, which was a pick from Ben, over 20.5 points.
He went over 20, right?
Yes.
20.5.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he went over 20.5. Then we had Tyus Jones over 13.5 pra. That's 7. Like, I'm still going.
Yeah,
like you know what I'm saying?
We perfectly capped that game. We also kind of capped how it was going to go at the end. Close game, last minute or two, going down to the wire. Obviously, Grizzlies win. I mean, I don't want to say, like, before we get into like the next segment, but really tough like series for Karl Anthony Towns. Just like he's really taken his lumps. Like I feel like he's looked like an idiot like 10 different times in this series. Whether it's
like 1-2.
Yeah, talking on the bench, frowning. Like I saw post game, he was like kissing to the crowd. Like, dude, you lost. Like you lost. Like what are you doing? Like you also lost because I don't want to blame him because it's not just him. It was a team effort. But what is he doing sitting out along the perimeter? He had Dylan Brooks on him in the fourth quarter. Like, go get a bucket, dude. You're 7 feet tall. What are you doing? He's like, I think this will be a learning experience for him because I think he's super talented, but this is a rough go. Because I don't even count like his first playoff series where he got like smoked by, I'm pretty sure it was like the Houston, the Harden Houston teams. This was like his first real playoff series, and he had a few good games, but like overall, he has some like learning to do and like growing up, I feel like.
So I have a couple things on Minnesota,
and I don't want to get like so narrative-y about it, but like he does have like he was a young guy in a playoff series, and he looked like a young guy in a playoff series.
I'll tell you this: I will very gladly get very narrative-y on the Timberwolves. One, the whole world allowed it, and like I know we got jokes off and stuff, but there was some people that were praising them for throwing a parade after beating the Clippers in the play-in. That whole thing was ridiculous. The way that they celebrated. That's one. Two, Cat told everybody, "Oh, I'm the best big man shooter ever," and then won the 3-point contest, and everyone's like, maybe Cat's right." Tricked himself into thinking that he could take 35 footers like he's Steph or Dame.
Yeah,
When again, you have Dylan Brooks on you, and you're 7 feet. If you don't turn around and
like
post
that.
up,
Yeah,
that's
go
that's
get
what
a
I'm saying.
bucket.
Like he's the dude at 24-hour fitness at LA Fitness where you just stand around and you're just like, dude, come like
Go
everybody
get a
else,
bucket, man.
everybody here is 5'9", 5'10". You're 6'4".
Yeah, no, I
Please
agree.
go get a bucket, right? That there's that. Two, I also think that because he's the best player, we're kind of looking at him to be like, okay, like I need you to drive the bus. I need you to push this thing forward. He's not that guy. That's Anthony Edwards. And
Yeah,
Anthony Edwards is the guy that's going to push this team forward and kind of like be that vocal leader for them. And for Cat, he really just shouldn't say anything ever again. Like the we in Minnesota now, dog. That trying to turn his voice,
yeah,
turn his voice deep mid interview, crazy move.
yeah. It was too much spotlight on him. But I
Crazy move.
think you make a great point though about Anthony Edwards, and I don't want to say like trade Cat or something like that, but it does feel like I Anthony Edwards was obviously was the number one pick, but everyone seemed to love LaMelo. I was always on the Anthony Edwards train, and he has upside that like top 10 player in the league. Like he could be on that like Jason Tatum fast track. So the question becomes like, do like what happens to Cat? Because like I feel like this is a team like that's going to quickly come to a crossroads like faster than I think we think. Because like there's no doubt this team is like incredibly talented. They have a good coach in Chris Finch. It's like, okay, is Cat the guy or is this Anthony Edwards? And we have to maybe find another guy to be like a Robin to Anthony Edwards. I think that very quickly, like the Timberwolves feel a lot like the Hawks last year. I know they got bounced in the first round. They didn't go on a run, but like in terms of like young, talented team with like a lot of guys, like D'Angelo Russell, like even Jared Vanderbilt and Jaden McDaniels. I mean, this is a very young upstart team who's you're even more talented than Atlanta, you could argue. Who's going to be the guy now going forward? I think that's what we look forward to as we, close the book on the Timberwolves. But it was a fun series. I wouldn't say it was the most well played series, but it was a fun series. And now the Grizzlies they turn to Golden State, which I think is going to be definitely a different test than Minnesota.
It's going to be a very different test, and I'll say this will be my last thing on the Timberwolves, and then we can get to our next segment. But one, I think D'Angelo Russell might have to be the one who goes because obviously he's not as talented as Edwards and Cat.
Expensive too.
Yeah, so that's our Timberwolves referendum. But
Yeah.
there's 8 teams left now, and so I kind of want to reset the NBA playoffs and reset everything that we've done, all of our picks and all of our takes, because some of our teams, not to take a shot at you, are no longer playing in the playoffs. So we have 8 teams left. Who's real? Who's fake? We're gonna play fate or future, but we're gonna take it from like a series by series perspective. So I want to start out with the first series. It's gonna start tomorrow. Bucks Celtics. Milwaukee will be without Chris Middleton for the entire series. He still has the MCL injury. And so it's going to be Giannis versus Tatum in this insane Boston defense. What do you see game one looking like? What do you see this entire series looking like?
So this series, 2-2 in the regular season between the two teams. Um, it's going to be tough for Milwaukee without Middleton, and I said this before the playoffs started. Milwaukee's defense is a bit concerning. It's a step up from Brooklyn's, and it just feels like the chips are falling Boston's way because I want to see a real elite defense get this Boston offense because I'm still not all the way sold on it. I just don't know if Milwaukee is going to have the offensive firepower to keep up with this Boston team. I mean, it's going to be just Giannis, but Boston has guys to throw at Giannis. Like, who's going to be the secondary guy to go? Like, it's going to have to be a Drew Holiday series. You're going to need to see someone like Grayson Allen or Pat Connaughton get hot. I find myself struggling to find an answer from like I'm not rushing to lay Boston at like minus 200, but it's gonna have to be like a Giannis superhero performance for them to get there. I think I like Boston in game one. So if that price jumps close to like Milwaukee plus like 275, 300, that will probably be enough for me to jump in, just like at like a pure numbers perspective.
Yeah,
Milwaukee always stinks in game one. But I will just say long term, things are really just opening up for Boston. You get Brooklyn while they're down and they're all out of sorts. You're getting Milwaukee wounded. You're looking at the other side, and Embiid has a broken face. We haven't even spoken about that. Kyle Lowry might be out for a little bit. Jimmy Butler he missed the closeout game, game five. So like just from a pure health perspective, this looks like it's breaking Boston's way. Obviously, getting Robert Williams back. I like Boston in game one. I'm probably gonna look to play Milwaukee in the series. Maybe like that like plus 2.5 series spread, plus 1.5. Maybe that'll be my luck.
yeah. I'm looking. So right now, I'm looking to see. So I'll tell you this. I'm on Milwaukee plus 4.5 for game one. I think
Okay,
it.
so you like Milwaukee.
Yeah, I like
Okay.
Milwaukee in game one. I'm still trying to decide whether or not I want to be a little bit aggressive and take them on the money line. But I will be playing them plus 4.5. They're
Interesting.
plus,
Like what do you say?
so and I'll say this. So they're plus 175 for the series. And as great as Boston's defense was, and even as out of sorts and as bad as Brooklyn played, they only every game was fairly close, right? Like Boston won these games by an average of four
Combined
and a half
18.
points,
Yeah, combined 18 points.
right? Combined 18 points, and you get these sweep. They were down big in game two because
Yep.
Tatum had a bad first half. Brooklyn, they gave up a really big performance to Kyrie in the first one. Game three was also very close. Also, game one, they crazy sequence of
Yeah.
events. Tatum game winner. Then you have the big comeback in game two. Game three is kind of just like it was a win, but it was also very close. And then game four, Brooklyn was still very much in it towards the end of the game. So I don't think that Boston's defense is just so like steel curtain right now that Milwaukee can't get a few games. And I think that as a team, cohesive, they are more cohesive than what the Nets are. I think they have the better player in Giannis. And also defensively, I think Drew on Tatum is going to be very interesting. I think that's going to be great because if you talk about what Boston is going to have to do, right? They're going to have to make the wall against Giannis or put Time Lord or Al Horford on it. I'm I I have faith in those guys that they could do a solid job, right? Like they're obviously going to be better than Chicago, but this is still Giannis we're talking about, and I think like if the doubles start to come, Giannis's passing has you see like he's a willing passer, so I don't
Yeah.
think that they're going to be able to just stifle everybody, and like you said, it's going to have to be a big Drew series as well because somebody's going to have to pick up the scoring, but I do think that like the series is going to be a lot closer than a lot of people think, even with Middleton out.
Yeah, that's honestly really good point. I Boston's defense is that good, but again, it's the offense wasn't able, and I mean, obviously no one like watched that series as intently as me. Game three and four, Boston had, I mean, they answered every Brooklyn run, but their offense wasn't able to like run away from that game. Like their offense was good enough to beat an out of sorts Nets team, but it wasn't like they separated and they ran away and they blew them out. Like their offense actually like kept them just afloat. So it's actually a good point. And maybe you kind of swung me. Milwaukee's always terrible in game one, so I'm probably either staying off that, and that's why I'm going to look at the Milwaukee after I think they lose game one.
Mhm.
But that's honestly a good point about Boston's offense. I don't know if Milwaukee's the defense that can really kind of exploit how the offense. I still am just not buying it, but all very good points, and I think it's going to be a physical series. I think it's going to be a long series one way or another. And, I think Milwaukee, you're playing for a split here in Boston, trying to just kind of lengthen this series out and hope you have the best player on the floor. And Giannis, that could just win it. Because Tatum
Yeah,
was the best player on the floor in the Brooklyn series.
yeah, and that's like that's exactly my point. Is that as bad as Durant played in those first two games,
They were still
easily,
there.
easily Brooklyn could have been up 2-0 as at like
Yeah.
they were right there in that series. They could have been up 2-0 and Durant was playing all types of outside of himself. So I think that like
Twist the
Giannis,
knife.
I
Just
know,
twist the
I know,
knife.
I'm so sorry, but like Giannis is Giannis is gonna go and he's gonna get his 30, 10, and 5. I want to see how much Boston is going to be able to hold up because if that 30, 10, and 5 turns into 38, 13, and 7, right? Which we know that Giannis can do, which is just crazy numbers. It's just like
Yeah.
it's legit video game
Do that in
stuff.
his sleep.
Yeah.
That's what I don't remember which stream we were talking about it on, but Middleton last year when the Nets played the Bucks, Middleton scares me more than Giannis because Giannis is getting his. It's like built into their score. Like Giannis is getting 30, 15, and 8. Like it's just done. Now,
Mhm.
where do you get the rest? And Middleton was always the guy who scared me because he has some weird playoff clunkers, but he also like goes inferno easy.
Yeah,
And he's
he
just
had
a
40
bucket.
in the finals.
Yeah. So is Drew Holiday going to fill that offensive role? You're going to need your Bobby Portis game. You're going to need. I
Your
honestly,
Grayson Allen game.
I think Brooke Lopez can hang on the floor in this series just by the construction of Boston's roster. I think you're going to put Giannis on Al Horford, and obviously have Giannis going in and out. Horford's been a good floor spacer, but you give up those Daniel Tice threes. Time Lord doesn't play outside the paint, so I think Brooke Lopez isn't going to get play off the floor like maybe some other matchups, like a Brooklyn matchup. That would probably be a bad matchup for Brooke Lopez, but I I think Milwaukee can hang in this series just because I'm still not all the way sold on Boston's offense. That being said, a lot of things are breaking Boston's way. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It just feels like it's like destiny is kind of on their side. But
I,
I
I,
do lean towards a close series, maybe like a series spread, like Milwaukee plus like 1.5 is kind of tough. Maybe lose game one and come in on Milwaukee plus 2.5 games, like a little juiced. I think Milwaukee I think this series goes at least 6.
I would take Bucks in 7. That's
You
my
think they go
pick.
into Boston? That's a tough one too because they don't have the home court. Boston has a legitimate home court.
I know. I'm taking Bucks in 7. That is my
Interesting. I guess
7.
for the sake of making a take, I'll go Celtics in 7. But I do think Milwaukee's very capable of winning the series.
Yeah. There's a second game tomorrow, which is actually a very, very fast turnaround with the Grizzlies, who we were talking about earlier, and the Golden State Warriors, who have like just they've woken up 2016 high school Donovan, and just like the amount of fun that they look like they're having this entire series, even though that the last 2 games have been kind of tough. We have Warriors Grizzlies game 1. Warriors are minus 260 for the series. Grizzlies, even the number 2 seed, even with home court advantage, plus 210, right? Plus 210 to win the series. I think a lot of people have been turned off by Memphis based off the horrific execution they've shown over the last 6 games. I think that this is going to be a fun series. I think it's either going to be a hard 5 or an easy 6 for Golden State. I'm one of those people who have been turned off by the execution from
Yeah.
Memphis. I think it's kind of clear that like their youth is showing, and I think Golden State gets them.
Okay, so here's just like one thought because I agree with you. The Warriors should win this series pretty easy, but don't you find it a little strange that, and I don't want to bring in another series, but the Warriors are like just as big or bigger favorites than the Suns are to beat the Mavs. And I get like Booker has the hamstring injury and everything, and the Mavs may have the best player in the series, but I just find it a little strange that they're going on the road and like no one's giving the Grizzlies a chance. Like,
For
do you
the
give it
series.
like it's a quick turnaround, and I know the Grizzlies offense has some serious concerns on how they can execute, but don't you think that this series is a much better matchup for Ja Morant than the Timberwolves series was?
Yes, it is.
Like
Well, I'm not sure. Here's what I'll say. I think that Ja will be able to get into the lane a little bit more, but I also think that like they can throw Gary Payton at him, they can throw Wiggins at him. Draymond's obviously going to be waiting there to like poke him in the eye,
yeah, of
like
course.
there's going to be stuff waiting for Ja. If they can figure out, I think the way that Golden State attacks him, Loki is the same way that teams used to do a young Steph Curry, which is, yo, you're gonna come into this pick and roll action, and you're gonna have to play both ways. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna force you to play defense because we saw like, Patrick Beverly was getting in the lane
Mhm.
every single time on Ja. What's gonna happen when it's Steph right? When it's Wiggins that's trying to make that move, when it's Jordan Poole that's trying to make that move. That's how I think Golden State gets them.
So that I'm not going to say Memphis is winning that series. I just think that the last series I don't think was a great it wasn't a great matchup for Memphis. I just think that Ja may have a few more advantages in this series. And also, like the Warriors beat a team that like we knew was terrible outside Jokic. Like they destroyed them. I get it. And they looked amazing. They looked like is this almost the time? Like I'm kind of thinking I might want to take Memphis in game one. Like the Warriors, I think they're like 1 point road favorites or pick them or something. Like
It's so the Warriors are minus 1.5 on the road. They're minus 125 on the money line.
it's a really quick
Memphis is plus 105.
It's a really quick turnaround. I also kind of like the over just looking at it, 219.5. I just feel like that's very low based on how the last series went and also how the Warriors series went. I just feel like that's a little too low. But it just feels like Golden State is getting like a ton of like credit for beating a team that like we knew they were gonna beat. It's like we thought it before the series, then we saw it. But like nothing should really change, right? Because we thought it beforehand. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like it's like confirmation bias. So like the way I'm thinking of it is like I want to find a way to fade Golden State. I just feel like they're like getting way too much respect now. And listen, this isn't me saying they're bad or anything. It's just like I don't think they're as great as like they're being made out to be. It's kind of similar to Boston. Like these two teams are being made out as these dominant world beaters, but like I'm still not all the way sold based on their first round performance. You know what I mean?
I understand. I understand what you're saying.
And I'm not saying the Warriors are going to lose. I don't want that to get twisted.
Yeah.
It's more just like I feel like they're almost like overrated now.
Okay, so I have a couple things for you. So one, honestly, I'm kind of shocked that the game one line is not more in the Warriors' favor. I mean, you look at the series prices minus 260, then you look and it's basically like a pick 'em or like it's close to it. So I think that's very close for game one. I understand Memphis has the home court advantage, but again, they just played a very physical series with Minnesota, have a 1 day turnaround, and then have to play again. Still have to travel back to Memphis. So I'm kind of surprised that the line is that close. So that's one. Two, I think for the Warriors, we've been waiting since Steph broke the 3-point record and he went into that slump. We've been waiting from that moment to now to see them turn back into what we saw at the beginning of the year, where it was them and Phoenix neck and neck, and they're like, oh, well, these two teams are just going to run away with the regular season, and it's not even going to be close. And whenever they play in the Western Conference Finals, that's going to be like the actual finals. And so seeing them turn it on and be as explosive, even if it is against Denver, everyone's like, okay, they are still like that version of that team. It's still there. So
Yeah.
I can go and start to feel confident again that like what I saw at the beginning of the year, where Steph is going crazy, where all the offense is, and they have Klay Thompson back now. Everything is finally like put back together. So I can like revive my fandom from the beginning of the year. That's where I think a lot of the confidence is coming from, not necessarily like blowing out Denver, because I don't think anyone cares about that.
I don't know. I feel like this line is like really wide. I don't know. That's just me. But like in terms of game one, maybe I'll be too. I don't know. I'm gonna think about it, but like I lean Memphis game one. Definitely the over. I'm probably gonna play the over. Just again, feels like it's gonna be another
the best bet for game
one.
one, because
You think Golden State is?
No, I think the over is.
Oh yeah.
I'm with you.
Obviously Memphis's offense isn't as execution based. I don't think it's gonna be this series against Golden State is gonna be as physical. I think both offenses are gonna have their way a little bit more. And I think everyone's kind of dumbing down on Memphis's offense. I mean, listen, those totals are at like 230 or so. Meanwhile, Golden State's offense is firing. They just had like the most efficient series ever. So maybe they cool down. But like, again, we're going like beneath 220. I've been playing unders the entire first round. It just seems like that's a bit of an overreaction. While we transition, I want to find what the like totals were in the other games this season.
Yeah, no, and I got you. I can give you some time on that. I'm very curious for the Warriors though, because this is a team that lost to the Grizzlies 2 years ago, in the playing game, and Ja had close to 40, I think, in that game. He went ballistic. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. I want to see if Jaren Jackson is going to be able to stay on the floor as well, because if he's not there and that if Jaren Jackson isn't on the floor, or if Brandon Clark can't give you solid minutes and Steven Adams has to play, Steph is cooking Steven Adams all day, every day, and they're going to do the same exact thing that they did last
Clark could
time.
hang, and that's Clark could hang. I mean, he like won. He like basically won them that
Yeah,
game last night. So
yeah.
I like Clark. I think he can
He
hang.
he's gonna have to stay. Both of the bigs are gonna have to stay on the floor. They're gonna need a mobile big to do that.
Yeah,
If we're talking about bigs, to stay on the floor, one of them who's not gonna be on the floor in game one is Joel Embiid. He, like you said
it's everybody.
earlier, has a broken face. It's very tough because he broke his face when the Sixers were up 29 with 4 minutes to play in the closeout game. And now he is out indefinitely with a broken orbital bone. He also has a mild concussion. And so the Heat are huge, huge favorites,
Yeah, like
obviously.
pushing like minus 400, 500. So
Yeah.
yeah,
This is not shaking up to be a good, situation for Philadelphia. I know, like, Kyle Lowry was out for game 5, Jimmy Butler was out for game 5, but the Butler injury didn't seem to be, too bad. It seemed like his knee was just feeling off, so they sat him. He's probably going to be back for game 1. I would expect him to be back for game 1, and if Butler's there, especially at home, I assume you're taking Miami, right?
yeah. I got on Miami like the second the line came out because they're just a terrible matchup for Philly in my opinion. They have guys that could switch onto Harden. They have bigs that could make Embiid's. I mean, forget his face. How about his torn ligaments in his hand? I mean, this guy's like an operation board at this point. There's so many things wrong with him. So, I obviously got in like way good. I think that you need to wait to hear how long Embiid's going to be out. I think it's a minimum of 5 days, so he's just missing game one. But either way, I thought this Miami series was going to be a really tough one for Philly based on Embiid's injury. Also, just again, the rotation of Miami is just a really, their ability to get guys on Harden. I think Harden's gonna have another terrible series. Just add this to the list of bad James Harden series because listen, Toronto made their run, but it was almost like they just tried really hard. They didn't have any matchup advantages. Whereas this Miami series, Bam Adebayo, I know he's been a little banged up, but he's going to have a ton of advantages. I know Embiid's a really big haul, but Bam's going to be able to stretch the floor a little bit. They're going to be able to run shooters around. You can't hide Harden on the floor. Maxi's going to be undersized against pretty much any matchup he's in. I just think this is a tough spot. If this team turns to Thibault, then that's another guy you don't have to guard on the other side of the floor. This is a really tough matchup for Philly. So I like Miami. Wait to see the Embiid injury. And, I think you could play Miami, minus 2.5 games. I think they win this one gentleman sweep style.
I agree with you. I think this is a 5-game series for Miami. I think in game 1, whatever the spread is, I'm
I think
taking
it's up to
Miami.
8.
I'm taking Miami. I'm playing Miami up to double digits just because the problem that we saw with Philly in those 2 games that they lost against Toronto is that obviously, like, Embiid was hurt, but he was still getting 20 and 10. Like, he was still doing his thing. Harden can't shoot, and Maxey turned into a player who couldn't shoot either. That 38-point explosion that he had in game 1 was that just wasn't there.
Cool.
And so if you're looking at what the Heat were able to do to Trae Young in terms of, hey, we're going to trap you every single time, or you're going to switch from Kyle Lowry guarding you to PJ Tucker guarding you to Jimmy Butler guarding you to Bam. Like,
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
like this, the ability to switch and then either blitz on the pick and roll and get the ball out of his hands. They can do that. They can do that to Harden. If they do that to Maxey, they're going to overwhelm him just because they're bigger and stronger than him. So I don't know where, like are they turning to Danny Green and Tobias Harris to come save them? They, like, I think 2.5 games, you kind of have to take that in terms of like the series price because there's just nothing. I don't without Embiid, there's nothing that Philly can do to win this series and be competitive. And,
Philly also,
and there's absolutely no way that Doc Rivers is out coaching Spoelstra.
yeah, Philly doesn't strike me as a team that if they go down 3-1, you're getting like a big effort to like they don't
No,
strike me as like a
1-2-3
resilient
Cancun.
bunch. Like, and honestly, like you got to feel for Embiid because like he just can't stay healthy ever, and like obviously like that's a forget the ligaments and the torn ligaments. It's like an elbow end of game, why he's in whatever, but like tough break for him that he just can't stay healthy. But this team just doesn't strike me as like rallying the troops in Miami game 5. They're down 3-1. I just think this is we'll see how long he's out for. If I had to bet Embiid will only miss one game, he'll try and gut through it, but. And the guy is just going to be so banged up. It's going to have to be Harden, and this is a terrible matchup for the new James Harden.
Dude, if they are down 3-1, everybody else might be like, all right, like, listen, how are we gonna get through this? I'm telling you, James Harden is gonna be at Live that night. He's gonna be at Live, and like they're. I agree with you. They're easily like 1-2-3 Cancun type of team, and
Yeah.
I can see them mailing it in. So if I think we both agreed, it's very like it's a very simple take. If Embiid isn't there, Miami's gonna run away with the series.
Also, don't sleep Dwayne Dedman, their backup big man. He gives Embiid a ton of trouble. So, again, Miami has the roster and the flexibility, I think, to really just match up really, really well against Philly. So, yeah, I think that the Embiid injury only furthers my confidence that Miami kind of rolls here.
Yeah. So there's one more series left, and we talked about it earlier in terms of like the big price, but we have Mavs Suns, and so this should start on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
This started on Monday as well. Mavs get Luca. Obviously, Boyan misses the wide open three, ends the series there. The Suns CP has literally a perfect game
Yeah.
and closes out New Orleans. The Suns are minus 275 to win this series. Mavericks are plus 225. Do you think Dallas has a chance to upset Phoenix?
Well, I hope so because I have a Mavs to win the West future. I don't know though. I mean, I will say Dallas's defense has been like very impressive with like Dorian Finney-Smith, Reggie Bullock on the perimeter. I don't know if they could win. I think Dallas could hang. So let me go back. They went 0-3 against Phoenix this year, all games single digits. This reeks to me like a very competitive 5, maybe 6 game series where like every game goes down to the wire, but Phoenix out executes Dallas because Dallas's late game offense is actually, it's like Luka based and stuff, and that's great, and he's amazing, and he'll hit his game winning shots. But like game 6, for example, like really bad last minute from Dallas's offense there. So like if that's
Very
a
true.
preview, and I understand the jump from like Utah to Phoenix. So while I think Dallas may have the best player on the floor, I could totally see like 3 games being determined in the last minute where Dallas has like a disastrous possession where it's like Luka chucking up a 30-footer, and then Phoenix comes back the other way, and it's like Chris Paul masterclass, like snaking a pick and roll and hitting a floater. So I think Dallas could be competitive. I think maybe from like an against the spread angle, maybe play Dallas at like especially on the road at like these big prices because like you could. I don't think it's like outland. I don't think it's crazy at all. It's like Luke. They have the best player on the floor. I think even with the bum cap, I think that's fine. So they can hang in these games. I just think late in games, like money line perspective, and like to win the series, Phoenix might just out execute them like they did to New Orleans in the end of the fourth quarter. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
I agree. I will say that for Phoenix, once again, you had a masterclass 14 for 14 performance from Chris Paul. Um, so I mean that gave him a boost. So I'm looking at the lines right now. So Phoenix is a 6 point favorite in game one, minus 240 on the money line. Dallas is plus 195, and then the total's at 213. Okay, I'm gonna start big picture in terms of series wise. One, I think everything that you said in terms of Dallas's late game execution is real, and
Yeah,
I because and you saw it in game one when Luca wasn't there, and you saw it in game 6, is that they kind of just say like, "Here, Luca, like we're gonna run one screen, get you whatever switch that you want, and then you're just gonna dribble, dribble, dribble for 15 seconds and dish the ball out to the corner in the last three, force somebody to take that three. It's either that or Lucas says, I'm tired. Brunson, you do it. And then now Brunson comes in, dribble, 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 wait for the screen, kicks,
It's
and
like
we just do
prevent
that.
offense, kind of. Like they're just
Yeah,
like burning the shot clock.
yeah.
They're not
And so
hunting for the best shot.
I'm not a huge fan of that, especially because like I know that they were like up, but that game is still like close, you know, like you
Yeah.
still have to run stuff. So with Phoenix though, I think Phoenix can get this in five. I think peak Phoenix gets this in five. I just playoff Luca is something different. And he's
Mhm.
like, I think now that he's finally has his legs under him after a couple games, I'm gonna buy into Luca Magic and give them. I think I would if I had to buy a series price, it would be Suns in six because
Yeah,
but
that's
I can very easily see this going in five because like you say, Luca is the best player in the series. The Suns have the next three best players.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, like they just have that, and then they also have the best perimeter defender in the series as well, Mikal Bridges. So you just see just after you get past Luca, where is everything else gonna go? Like, is Jalen Brunson gonna have a 40-point game in this series? Probably not. So I would take Phoenix, but I think at this point you would have to start looking at like series spread to get a little bit of value because there's like absolutely no value in minus 275.
Yeah, I agree. So let me ask you this: who's more likely to win? Forget the odds. Like, who do you think? Like, first of all, I'd be very pumped to see a Warriors Suns Western Conference Finals. I think that'd be sick and
Yes.
just great basketball. But what do you? Which upset would you see in the West if you had to pick one? What do you think?
In terms of like Warriors
Mavericks
Grizzlies
or
and
Grizzlies? Who would you, if you had to take one of them? Free
I
bet.
would I would take the Mavericks.
I'm
I
kind of
would
leaning
take the
that way
Mavericks.
too.
I think Golden State is just that much better than Memphis, and you just bro these last six games, the offensive execution late game is so bad, right? Like even when they were up four, Ja taking that
Yeah.
insane three and missing the whole rim. That those things just can't happen. They've started slow every single game. I can't get on them as like an upset play. I think Golden State's just they're too veteran. They have too much experience. They're too smart. They're just not going to lose.
Yeah, I could totally see a world though where the Mavericks are like up 3-2 going home. I don't know why. I just think when you have a guy like Luka
Yeah,
Doncic, again, who knows what happens with Booker, CP3, he's playing at such a high level, but we've seen him kind of run out of gas in these postseasons. So like again, I'm not going to call the outright upset. I hope so because I do have a Mavericks future, but I mean, again, I'm also kind of surprised that the Suns aren't getting a lot of credit. They must be really bank or at least concerned with Booker's hamstring and kind of if Phoenix could keep this up because I'm shocked that the Mavericks are this short of a price. I thought they would have been much bigger. So maybe people are also counting on this Dallas run here. Also, just another thing for Dallas, something in their corner. Their offense is so spread out and 3-point reliant. Like they could just get hot from three and just like blitz Phoenix off the floor. Like Maxi Kleba, he does another 7 3-pointer game. Like that like swings a game. And all of a sudden
yeah,
you're in this series and you have home court. So it's just something to keep in mind that Dallas, I guess, has like the formula of like superstar player, could spread the floor, hit a bunch of threes. They play pretty good defense. So Dallas has the recipe for an upset. Can they do it? I don't know.
yeah. I'm not sure either, but I
I
think
need a
that
bigger price to take Dallas to win this series, though. I need closer to like plus 300, plus 350, at least in my opinion.
yeah. So you're clearly the well, I guess not clearly, but you have a feature on them. So you're gonna have them like they're
Yeah.
not a
No,
favorite.
Mavs in six. I'll take Mavs in six.
Okay,
Why not?
cool.
I'm,
I need
I just
the
think it's too
conviction.
easy. It's too easy to do Phoenix and Golden State. Like I've been I in both my handicaps, I was thinking like, are there ways to play Memphis and Dallas in these series, or is it just going to be like? I guess it's a little contrarian to me, but like I just think it's too predictable. Like it's too easy. I feel like these teams are getting a little almost. I think Phoenix might not even be getting enough credit, but I think Golden State's getting a lot of credit that like I'm not sure is necessarily deserved yet. So we'll see.
You're big braining this.
Yeah, I
You're
might
trying
be
to
big
galaxy
braining.
brain it.
I
It's
might be.
gonna be Golden State and
I might
Phoenix.
be.
All right. We've come to the end of the show. We have two things left for you. I have a best bet. Reed has a best bet for tonight. There's no NBA on, right? There's no hockey on. So Reed, where are you going for your best bet?
Yeah, I'm doing Rob Font. He's in the main event, UFC tonight, facing Marlon Vera. Small favorite. He did miss weight yesterday. I wrote this up on BetSide if you want more, but I wrote this up at a worse line, so you get him for even cheaper. Missed weight by 2 pounds, but like not changing my handicap. He didn't look like he was shaking up or anything, but basically simple handicap. Rob Font, he's a contender, in my opinion, at bantamweight. He's coming off a loss to another contender in Jose Aldo. Meanwhile, Marlon Vera, he beat up on two guys ranked lower than him at now outside the top 10. So this is kind of like your classic buy low, sell high spot. Font, if he would have beaten Aldo and he was winning that fight early, he'd be like a crazy favorite in this. So like I'm not going to overreact to one loss to a good fighter. So I'm going to take Rob Font. I think he gets this done.
All right. I like that. I like that. I'm gonna go to Major League Baseball with my bet.
Here we
We're gonna
go.
go. We're gonna go Red Sox -1.5 against the Orioles. The Orioles, and we said it yesterday on Best of. I am always down to fade bad offenses, and that is exactly what Baltimore is. Baltimore is 26 in OPS, 29th in home runs per game. Can't even get a little bit of juice to keep them in. They're 22nd in hits per game, and they're dead last in the league in runs per game. On top of that, they have they've lost 5 straight, haven't covered in any of them. And I know Boston's been up and down and their record isn't fantastic, but if you look coming into the Baltimore series, because they beat the Orioles 3-1 yesterday. They had 10 games and 7 of them were against the Toronto Blue Jays.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They've just been playing Toronto.
Yeah, it's going to water down their value a little bit.
Yeah, they've just been playing Toronto. So the Blue Jays are second in the AL East. They are a very good team. So I think we're getting a little bit of value. This is -110 right now.
Yeah.
So I'm really trusting Boston to come in here and get a win. But that is all that we have for you guys today. Reed, it's been fantastic. Don't
There's a
forget
weekend show.
Yeah, little weekend show. Don't forget we will be back tomorrow. Actually, I won't be here. Who's on tomorrow?
Let's see
Who
who
get
we
to
got
see?
tomorrow. Tomorrow,
It will
it's
be
looking
Ben and
like
Peter, right?
yep.
Ben Heisler, Peter Dewey will be holding down the fort. Again, bet and breakfast new time, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central, and also don't forget every weekday, Monday through Friday, daily bet slip. Same kind of concept. We got 2 of our editors on here. We're going to be giving you guys plays for the night every single week. So for tonight and for the rest of the week, may all your bets hit and hope you guys have a great day.
Let's go.